Thank you.
The budget is important. We're happy to
Budget
be
is
here.
important.
It is important,
Yeah,
and the ones that understand that are here.
that's fun.
That's right.
Chief, thank you for being here, you and Weston.
Here we go,
All
sorry.
right, happy to be here. Thank you.
No problem.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Can't get approval of minutes because we don't have quorum. So,
We'll do that one.
we'll just go ahead and get started on agencies. We've got a agenda in front of you this afternoon, agency funding, early learning, after-school care, community land trust, follow-up, economic development demonstration, and then if Councilman Harvey shows up, I think we're going to talk about a budget policy resolution. So, Chief, I'm going to turn it over to you for agency funding proposals.
Great. Thank you, Budget Chair. Appreciate it. Good morning, Council. How are y'all?
Good morning.
So just to kind of remind folks where we are on this, in the initial proposal that the mayor put forward, we had a hold for agency funding. That's what I'm referencing when I say A2407 up at the top. That hold was for $4 million. In the last couple of weeks, I've been working with many of you on this list, just talking through the different organizations and initiatives that we're proposing to fund. And so what this represents is the latest and greatest version that I'm hopeful accomplishes funding for what we view as kind of the critical civic infrastructure that we initially put forward, as well as some net new items that I want to highlight. So at the top, this is strictly out of that A2407 $4 million. The only change relative to the first iteration of this document is that the Chattanooga Regional Homeless Coalition came in at 861. As we've been working, our finance team has been working with them directly. We had held 880, but it came in at 861. And then I've added Transform Ministries at 50,000, which is the last item in that first section. This is for a program called In Zone. This is Joe Smith's group, and they work with at-risk children and after school from ages 10 to 14. And so this is operational support for that program. This is a request that came in from Chairman Davis. And then at the bottom, the reason that I just pulled these out is because I want to explain how we're proposing to fund these other 4 items. So the grocery store incentive program that we intend to set up through the IDB for $150,000 to try to encourage a grocery store development in one of our most severe food deserts in town. We're going to fund that we're proposing to fund that rather from the Economic Development Reserve Fund. Also dropping down to the bottom of this list, at the bottom is, you'll see Preserve Chattanooga. This was a request that that was originally not included in our initial proposal, but one that has been advocated for, and we would like to support them. We can fund it through the Economic Development Fund as well. This money will be used to help spin up their operations a little bit by helping them fund for 1 year a staffer who is going to come up with their permanent plan to retain that funding. And then jumping back up to the second item in this bottom tranche, you'll see again, this is the extended childcare at James A. Henry. So $75,000 of the $200,000 cost is going to come from A2407, and then we're proposing to fund the balance from ARPA. You may recall from last year's budget, we set aside a kind of like a contingency allocation from ARPA that we thought that we may need to use to support operations as they were transitioning to James A. Henry. We did not end up needing to use that, and so this is a reallocation of those dollars. So it's a reallocation of a reallocation. Mm-hmm. And then net new underneath that one is Grace Impact Center. We're proposing to fund this one at $200,000. This is another violence intervention initiative. This is a request from Councilman Clark and would serve the Brainerd Middle in that neighborhood. Councilman Clark, would you be willing to share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Our current violence reduction initiative that we fund through Community Haven has a footprint that's only identified in one particular council area at a pretty hefty amount. This Grace Impact Center has a program called the Opportunity Development Initiative that will focus in some of the hot spot that overlaps District 9 in the Eastdale community and the Whitmore community around Brainerd High School and Tyner High School. We felt that there was a need. Brainerd High School in 1 year saw 9 black boys killed due to gang violence out of their high school in one school year. And currently we don't have any programs, including the CURVE program or Community Haven, in that hot spot working to do violence reduction initiatives. So the mayor's office has been so kind to fund this at a level as a pilot program starting in August that'll be working at our community centers, Brainerd High School and Tyner Middle School, as a violence interrupter with high schoolers, which is where we see the origins of gang activities and violence that oftentimes spreads into our streets. One of the key metrics, not to belabor this, is that schools like Brainerd High School has the highest absenteeism rate in the city. One of the metrics that Grace Impact Center will be working on is working directly with Community Forward, the school system's school support person, to hone in on those individuals, because what we've learned, when they're not in school, guess what they're doing in my district? Gang banging. Well, yeah. Gang violence, yeah. Anyway, so this is a pilot program that we will be releasing some metrics. Metrics are really big for me. You've got to, if you say you're going to do something, you got to tell us how you're going to do it, how you're going to measure it, and what the impact is. And so this is a supplemental program to the Mayor's Violence Reduction Initiative that'll be in District 5 and 9. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you for that.
Any questions?
We're really coming at gun violence from a lot of angles.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting in the coming budget year just to get some reports on, here's all of it all at once. Because, sometimes we'll get a report from community development, or, the mayor's office, wherever the 423 chain breakers are householded in the structure. We'll get a report, from one small group. But I think it would be pretty helpful to have that full picture of, here are all the different grants, here are the pilot programs, here's Community Haven. Oh yeah, Community Haven also has $650,000 in addition to this. So all of it together so that we can, and I think, we've got the team mentoring, Transform Ministries. So anyway, you hear where I'm going.
Absolutely.
I think that would be really useful for the community and for the council to really see the full picture of how the administration's tackling gun violence.
Absolutely. I share that desire. I've had a lot of good conversations with Councilman Clark and Councilman Elliott and with others. Absolutely want to build out kind of a common operating picture for the CVI ecosystem to understand what are all the programs, where are all the programs, what is the funding stack looking like, and then how are we tracking impact both qualitatively and quantitatively. A lot of this work, especially on the DOJ side, is relational, right? It's about trusted messengers and kind of these multidisciplinary partnerships that exist, and they do exist, but being able to tell the story and being able to have metrics at the ready is critically important. And I know that many of the metrics do exist, but I have not. I've actually had a challenging time even since last week of pulling together, exactly what are we looking at, what are we reporting, and so we'll make that happen for us on short order.
Okay. Yeah, it's not dissimilar from homeless ministries, right? So many people feel a call to this type of work in the same way they feel a call to homeless ministries. There's a lot of resources being deployed by the community, by the government, I think also within that, it would be important for us to include our Chattanooga Police Department and the community policing work that they're doing, because obviously that's a huge part of of how we as a city participate
Absolutely.
in that work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, it was a small group. I didn't raise my hand. I'll try to do better. We're pretty cash right now.
pretty casual.
May I add to that?
Go ahead.
Chair? Because I cannot stress enough the work of our police department. You know, when they came into our budget hearing, they had metrics.
Yeah.
And I don't want to leave this budget hearing or this meeting without stressing the disappointment, not to rain on the parade of the work we are doing, that when this information was requested from the Department of Community Development a year ago now, we don't have the metrics from the department, our Office of Public Health, or from the administrator. So I want to be on the record in reiterating that and how disappointing that is, I believe, to the council, that not only was it requested, but it was not sent over. And I plan to follow up in writing with that to the mayor himself, because to your point, we have metrics. And when you come before a budget hearing this way, you know, we have departments from early learning to the police department that are saying, this is what we did. This is how we measured it. This is what the success rate was. And we're really, really struggling with the Department of Community Development to really understand, like, how are they really developing the community? And that's not, before everybody, some of my colleagues on council get all in an uproar, he's trying to cut community. No, we're not. We actually need to put more into community development, because as we see what's happening in the streets, we need these partners. Like, we need, I did not know that was Joe's group, Transform Ministries, but my brother, who you all know is deceased from gang violence, was a member of that program. And so for me, this is personal for my community, because again, these are our neighbors that we are burying. You know, Dr. Crystal Sorrells, the principal at Brainerd, called me just last week, buried 6 children. And then 3 of them could not return to school due to gun violence. And none of our programming is in that school or in that area at all.
It's crazy.
And so I just want to, the police department, I tell people, amazing work. As critical as some people may be in my district about the police department, I know their crime suppression work and their detective work to solve cold cases. You know, Chief Chambers does not get enough credit for what he's doing to reduce violence. And I think there are certain groups who have not produced data that are actually getting credit for what the police department is doing. And so I'm going to be very critical of that and probably ask for an audit from the city auditor's department to determine, like, how do we do community development? What, to your point, what is it? How do we measure it? And if it's working? But we don't know, because they have not produced any metrics or results yet for tangible on paper for us to review. So I just want to be on record in saying that.
Chief, is that something that we can get in a format, like, how are we gauging our impact on community development?
Yes, certainly on the violence piece specifically, but I know that you're also talking about the department on a whole.
Rob.
Yep. We can, Darren, I don't know if you are in a spot right now to speak to that. Is there anything pending in terms of coming out with the current one-year plan and sharing the OKRs with the group?
So there is a substantial data that they've obviously been collecting with Cedric taking over now for 7-8 months, and with Veronica coming on, who's helping elaborate that data. So I would say yes, to answer your question. Before how soon, I don't know. I would have to reach out and see how close they are. But I do think that yes, that now we have the in place, especially with Veronica and her background in analysis and data gathering.
Yeah.
The answer is. If you give me a timeline, I can check and see if.
Okay. I don't want to just give one arbitrarily right here, but I think that we can all see that there is a strong desire to have a common operating picture, including metrics, roadmap, what are we measuring, where are we going? So we will certainly work to establish a deadline and follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that suffices. You know, y'all had a year. I'll say that, but I don't know how much skill set and the administrator and the deputy how long it would take to pull data that should already be readily available. And so I think I would like to set a realistic timeline.
What would you like to see?
I like to see it before the end of our budget year ends, which is June 30th.
Darren?
All
You good?
right.
So that's a month. Remember last year, it took y'all 9 months to figure and to hire a new deputy. That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
If nobody else, so I've got a couple of questions. ARPA dollars, is my understanding, we have to have those spent by the end of 2026. Is that correct?
That's not correct. So let's see, 2 years ago, the Department of the Treasury basically put out two courses of action that municipalities who received ARPA funding could take. One of them would have required this deadline. The other one, basically, you were able to take the ARPA dollars, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm going to give it a shot to clean me up here. You could take it and effectively write it off as lost revenue, which effectively washed it of its ARPA
okay.
designation. And so we hold them, and we still call them ARPA dollars,
Okay,
but they are actually no longer ARPA dollars.
They've been laundered?
Legally.
Washed. They've been washed, not laundered. Hand washed.
The federal
Not sent
government
out.
sanctioned a laundering process that we took advantage of. Is that pretty good?
For the record.
Yeah.
It's on the epic. Can we make him red?
Clean me up. Go ahead.
No.
Western right now.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We also on that, we have a kind of a grants management team, and we kind of have all this money earmarked for different things. It's just some of the groups, it's just taking a while to get everything in place to draw it down. But I've tasked that group, who falls kind of under finance, to let's just get it spent. So the plan is to get it spent this year, regardless of when it needs to be spent. There's just a few things. We're close on most everything of getting it drawn down and out in the community where it needs to be. It's just been getting through some of the red tape on different items. And then again, this one in particular was set aside for sort of this purpose for early learning at James A. Henry. We just kind of reworked it just a little bit for extended hours here.
Okay.
But yeah, there's most all of it at this point has been spent or is in the process of drawing down. And then the plan is be done with ARPA this year, so we don't have to talk about it or think about it anymore, and then get it where it needs to be. So
yeah, okay, that makes sense. And I think I remember that now, but we keep referring to that as
We do,
ARPA
because-
dollars, but it's technically,
And one of the reasons that it continues to creep up is because as long as we are holding, like for example, we had set aside $2.8 million for a low barrier shelter. So that money is in an account. Well, it's bearing interest. And so the interest is also something that we incorporate into our budgeting. But as long as we have kind of like that corpus, it's going to continue to
Right.
create interest. And so
Gotta track it.
we want to spend it down. We have to track it. And it's kind of like its own little couple of line items.
it sounds better than calling it slush fund, right? Yeah. Okay, did you have a question?
I do. Can I follow? Are we still on this?
Well, yeah, is it relating to the ARPA dollars?
It is.
Yeah,
It's
go ahead.
to your comment that you made about the low bearing shelter. Council.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Councilwoman.
When we set aside funds for things like that, because ARPA was set aside about how many years ago?
3 years ago,
3 years ago. And so
4 years ago.
So for the low barrier shelter, those funds that are currently drawing interest, but we won't move. Do we move that? What's the budget policy as far as us moving that around? Like, does it just stay there, or if you're holding it there, you can't say, oh well, I need to take $1 million here and put it into I don't know.
So the council has approved through a series of resolutions over time, specific usages that are allowed for those dollars. We can't change those usages without coming back with a new resolution. And so this 125 ARPA kind of supplement for extended childcare at James A. Henry, This isn't, the 125 portion of that is not going to be in the budget ordinance. It's going to be its own resolution through which you guys will give us the authority to change the usage from what we had last year. We're going to do it at the same time because it does have a budget impact, but that's the way mechanically it works. So no, we cannot just change it without coming to you guys and getting.
Because it's specifically earmarked in the ordinance for that money.
It's not in the ordinance. It is specifically earmarked via resolution.
Resolution, not budget ordinance.
It's not in the budget ordinance.
So that goes back to my question, that if it's not in the budget ordinance, that means it can be earmarked or moved around, because a resolution has no, I don't know the word, sticking or power. Is that for when it comes to line item budgeting?
So,
Why don't you let Weston answer that? Real quick.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Back up. That has to show up somewhere in the budget.
No.
No?
That's why I'm
The
asking
ARPA
the
portion does
question.
not. So we don't account in our budget. We do not budget for the grant dollars. It was done via a separate resolution that earmarked those monies for something. And so then when we would come back to say we're not going to do that, we're going to change it to something else, we introduce a new resolution to reallocate those dollars to whatever the new purpose is. So you guys, not you, but this body
Sure.
approved that at some point in the past. And so we bring it back to you guys to say, hey, we want to move it, and you guys approve it at that point.
I get that. Y'all are not answering my question. So to what you're saying, when we pass a resolution, that a resolution does not have the same authority as an ordinance does in a line item budget, which to my question, that means it can be moved around. So if we have earmarked what's the amount for the Global? 2.8, and it's a resolution, they can move it around.
Sure.
Because it's a resolution,
Yeah.
because we have not enshrined it as in the ordinance.
That's correct.
Well, and as a council, we can change ordinances too. We can change anything. But so what we're doing as this budgeting process, we are, for the most part, we are looking at general fund dollars,
Sure.
a handful of enterprise funds, and our capital budget. There are things that are not in this budget, in these budget documents, like the risk department's $4 million is not in this general fund budget because it's not it's funded by way of department allocations into the risk department.
Gotcha.
So there is a whole separate, which is something I hope we would talk about today. But yes, if we pass a resolution that says we're gonna put money toward ARPA dollars toward the homeless shelter, we could absolutely change our mind. Now, if we were to move that the way that, for example, some of the economic development dollars go into the HEB or they go to the IDB, once that's there, then it's out of our coffers. It's in somebody else's bank. But yes, if it's sitting on our books, as a council, we 100% have the ability to change that if we wanted to. But typically in a situation like that, once we've made a commitment like that, we hold to that commitment.
Through resolution.
That's right.
Through resolution.
Or like a grant dollar allocation, the way that ARPA was a grant dollar allocation, not a general fund spend.
Through ordinance, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
Gotcha.
general fund is absolutely through ordinance.
Gotcha.
So you might have answered my next question kind of through this path. The line item then, or whatever it is, A20407, hold for agency allocation, is that line item now different than $4 million?
It is not, and that's why I have the breakdown. So the $4 million is the general fund allocation. There are some additional things that go beyond the $4 million projected general fund revenue for this purpose. And so that's why I broke out at the bottom how we're going to fund those additional initiatives.
Well, I guess to follow up kind of along the lines of Councilman Clark, how can we ensure that the grocery store incentive program is codified through ordinance.
It will be codified because economic development funds are codified through ordinance.
So
Because
that's
those are recurring revenue
the
streams.
11 and 11 fund. It's in our budget ordinance. So we will just make that.
So on this whole list, the only thing that we're going to accomplish via resolution is that 125,000 ARPA reallocation.
Okay.
Everything else is either general fund or economic development fund, which is in the ordinance.
Right, okay, answer my
So the, let's just say then for the $200,000 that we put into the Grace Impact Center, that's going to show up on a line item in the executive branch.
Absolutely. Well,
Well, no.
it's going to show up in a line item. We're going to clean this up.
Well-
I'm explaining how we're going to get to 200. We have 119 in the 4 million, and then we're going to reduce the executive branch's
By
budget
81,000.
by 81 to get to
That's
200.
okay, that's where I was going.
Yep.
That's where I was going with that. And then is Councilman Clark, and you can help me with this because you brought up last week about the early learning after school care, the demonstration project. Is this being taken care of through this line here, this $200,000?
It is. So what they have done, and Kevin, help me with this, which I think is remarkable, is that they're using the James A. Henry site kind of as a pilot to extend. So we, how many sites, I should know this, forgive me, but of our own Head Start early learning sites, I think there's 4 together. And does the 4th one include this one?
Yes.
Okay, so that's great. So basically, Chairman Henderson, we have 3 that are not going to be a part of that. So I kind of look at this as a start and a pilot,
Yeah.
which I think is great because it's in an area where we still have a low to moderate income area that needs Head Start. And so the fact that they're extending those hours past 2 o'clock is that I actually think it goes to 6 o'clock.
I think that's the plan.
I was
Yeah.
gonna ask about that because when Caritza was here, she said 8 to 5.
Yeah, I think it was 5 originally.
And,
That's
but
right,
I
so
think
it's
we
good
all
best.
know that 6 is really what it needs to go to actually be useful to
Yeah.
people. So I think we need some clarity on that and to understand, is this gonna get us to 6 o'clock? Because if not, are you just kind of throwing 200 grand away? Is it really helping people who work?
So the Department of Early Learning put forward to us kind of a good, better, best. Like, if we can have it all, this is what we want, and this is what we get at this dollar amount. Based on just budget realities, we got to 200, which was a little bit more than kind of the good, the bottom
Okay.
tier. And so I do not think that it is a waste at all. And I think that one of the things that we want to do in the demonstration in this upcoming year is really track and understand the impact of that incremental hour as we consider, going back to last week's line of questioning about costs, per center costs, we're pulling that together and
Okay.
gonna have kind of like a facility by facility staffing model and then cost it all out. We want to make sure that in this year, we fully understand the impact that the money's going to have. And I guess, how much do we need that extra hour and what kind of impact do we think that it would have?
Okay.
But to add that extra hour, her
3
proposal.
hours, really.
From 2 to 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 3 hours, but to add it to 6, it'll be 4. Would that really be extra money for that 1 hour? Like, would it be that much of an impact just to say move it to 6 without having to move that dollar amount?
I'm sure it would be.
It would be, yes. I don't remember the specifics. I can share the 3 tiers that Carissa shared with us. I don't have it handy. But I could, it's kind of outlined in the good, better, best proposal of what the difference is. But there absolutely is an incremental cost because it's
Just
an
for that
additional-
1 app to move it?
over the course of a year, right?
Say go ahead.
I said I can share it with you.
Okay, thank you. I just be curious, like, I mean, if it's 25,000, 50,000, you know, like,
Yeah.
what would it be to add that 5 PM to 6 PM? Because our partners are doing that, you know, Chambliss Center is doing that, Purpose Point is doing that. These are stellar, although our Head Start program met and exceeded their benchmarks, which I'm really excited about. I'm just curious what the cost analysis is just to add it for an hour, especially for the west side. Anyway.
We will get that to all of you.
Okay.
One other question, since we're talking about James A. Henry. So is it the Boys and Girls Club that is going to be at James A. Henry?
They are going to be at James A. Henry.
Are they going to be running the James A. Henry Community Center? Or are they just householding in it?
I think that they are providing in-kind services programmatically. I don't think that they're running the center.
But they're going to have staff in, like, working out of that center?
That's my understanding. So part of the community match piece for the HUD grant that we're going after to help make James A. Henry happen, and the West Side happen, is outside organizations are coming in to provide programming, and we have assigned dollar value to all that. So they are part of that stack of programming at James A. Henry.
Because that just seems to me like a really interesting way forward for community development, to see how that goes. Because, you know, here's a group of folks who know about this population of children who programming is what they do all day long, additional bodies in the building, people who care about children. I think that could be interesting to see how that plays out all over.
Yes.
You know, if.
Richard just texted me and corrected me that they're not at James A. Henry. I thought that they were.
Right, I'm waiting to
Which
give you
center are they?
So what happened was we have a West Side Community Center. And because we're building the new James A. Henry site, we're not gonna be in possession of that building anymore. And so the Boys and Girls Club is moving into our old center.
Oh,
And then our
also
new
interesting.
center, we will still have a community. So actually on that site, we'll have the Boys and Girls Club at the old community center. And then we'll still have our community center at the new James A. Henry site.
Okay.
So actually we'll have two operating groups, one which focuses more on girls and boys after school care. And then there's the community center, which is everybody, seniors, young adults.
So Boys and Girls Club will move their whole operation to James A. Henry, is that correct?
No.
They're at the.
To the one that.
There's a current center there.
Current center.
I don't even think we ever owned in the first place. Wasn't it owned by the Housing Authority?
I'm not sure.
I think the reason why they're able to move into that building, a part of whatever deal we have with the Housing Authority in partnership with James A. Henry, is that we gave that building to the Housing Authority, and the Housing Authority is allowing the Boys and Girls Club to come into the community center that we once operated. But because we're getting a new site,
So we're not really partnering with an organization to activate our community center. We're just having two buildings going with active. Okay, never mind what I said, but I do think it would be interesting to move some folks
I
in.
do too, and I think that the administration is interested in pursuing those types of partnerships. And while it is the Housing Authority's facility and their decision to do that, it certainly did not happen in a silo. It was part of a conversation between these different organizations as we're trying to move the ecosystem forward. So I do think that it's something that's definitely worth a thing on the go forward.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so Councilman, does that take care of our item number 4, early learning after school
yeah,
care?
it does, absolutely does. Thank you.
All right, since we now have a quorum, could I get a motion on last week's minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, without objections, those minutes will stand as recorded. Council, since we seem to be moving fairly quickly through this, a little quicker than I anticipated, if there are no objections, and I think the Community Land Trust, you've got some board members maybe lined up to come
They
after
did say that
lunch.
they were gonna come after lunch.
After
yeah.
lunch, okay.
Yeah.
So we have lunch scheduled for 11:45. If y'all don't mind, item number 7, the Economic Development Demonstration, we could go ahead and move that up
Okay.
to now and discuss that if you would. Council, if you'll look in front of you, I've got something that I'm presenting. It's the Chattanooga Next Generation Industry Program. And basically, what this is, what I am proposing is that we put $1 million into economic development to incentivize industries to come to Chattanooga, to relocate, to take advantage of the quantum computing that EPB has. And the other thing that I also thought, UTC is doing an incredible program up there right now with their mobility test bed down Martin Luther King with autonomous vehicles. I thought maybe that we might even want to look at incentivizing some of that industry, maybe to come to Chattanooga to partner with UTC. But my thought is that with $1 million, and I've talked to folks at EPB, I've talked to folks at UTC, I've talked to Charles Wood at the Chamber. They all feel like this is something that would really be beneficial to try to get Chattanooga on the leading edge, particularly, and I've spoke to some folks that feel like maybe we just need to focus on the quantum at this point in time, which I wouldn't have a problem with that either. But I think we have a really unique opportunity early to try to capture some of these companies and industries that are interested in this, but they will need an incentive package to relocate to Chattanooga and partner with EPB, with UTC, with what we have to offer in this quantum computing, and try to turn what we have into economic development and the economic dollars. So what I'm proposing is to place $1 million in economic development fund just for that purpose. I've talked to Chief about it. I was kind of trying to find $1 million, in the budget where we maybe could draw from. But Chief, I think you decided that you could find $1 million to put towards this.
So we have the ability to fund this through the Economic Development Fund Reserve, which is currently, it's a healthy reserve, and we could absorb it. I do have at least one question for you. In your mind, is this a one-time, we're going to do it this year, and then this is seed money for those organizations, or do you envision this being an annual thing for some period of time?
I think maybe we judge that by the success that we have with it and determine if we could draw a couple of big fish, if the smaller fish would follow. But I certainly would, my initial proposal would say, let's fund $1 million. Charles thinks that he can, with this seed money, maybe get another $1 million.
Oh, okay.
So that would double our investment. And then, but that would, my proposal for now would be for 1 year.
Okay.
For 1 year to see if we could catch some big fish that would entice them to come relocate, generate some interest around the quantum, and then see if we can start building a network of others. Because I think, so my idea would be to have a pitch event to where, and we put that out, and if we make the incentive attractive enough, we build a database of all kind of companies that would be interested in coming to do that. Mm-hmm. So even if those companies are not selected, we've now built a database of companies that are out there that would be interested perhaps in relocating, and then we could follow up with them at a later time. I think I got Councilman Clark first, and then Councilman Hill.
Chairman Hendricks, I think this is great, and Councilman Elliott is listening virtually, and he agrees that this is great. I just wanted to say that we have competitive states like the state of Illinois that we were told by the EPB incoming president, Janet, that they are our competitors as far as research and development for quantum. Do you know, and maybe this is something we need to research, if they have a similar program, like a business recruitment program around quantum that's happening in the state of Illinois?
I'm not really sure at this point that they do. I think at this point they've set aside money to start
business recruitment,
to start that, but I don't think they're as advanced as their development as we are. So I think we're certainly positioned to take this money and go out there and start
and compete with people that's trying to compete with us.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
But we need to do it now. Councilwoman Hill, then Councilman Harvey.
So I want to make sure I understand, the $1 million potentially being matched with another $1 million in fundraising
That's
from the
correct.
chamber, which I like that a lot, that this is potentially a catalytic investment. Is that fund, is this $1 million, is that to be used for the incentive, or is that to be used to draw interest, and then we have our other pilot TIF incentives?
No, this would be.
This would be
the pot.
Okay.
That we would incentivize.
Okay,
We've kicked around a couple of different numbers, whether it's 250,000, whether it's 500,000. The 500,000 seems to be a better incentive to draw bigger fish.
okay.
But if we're getting matched with $1 million, then, we're looking at potentially four companies.
Would you talk us through these qualification items so that we can all hear them in detail and the thoughts around that?
Well, obviously, the quantum computing and networking, obviously, they would be partnering with EPB and UTC, because they're both. And I tell you, one avenue that I have not explored yet is Vanderbilt, them coming down and the research that they're going to be doing around quantum. So what we would want is companies that are to the point that they're advanced enough that they're able to begin using quantum for their businesses and their models, and so that they would they would be in that field, and so the package and the incentive would be not only a monetary incentive, but and this is, we're trying to set up a meeting with UTC and EPB to really flesh out. I was hoping to have a little bit more information by now, but schedules and different things just haven't worked out. But to try to flesh out a little bit more of an incentive besides just monetary, like, using the quantum computer and the networking and developing that into a business model for a company. And then as far as the mobility innovation, UTC with their program is doing a lot with autonomous vehicles in the field of communications. And so I think there's an opportunity there that if we want to have sort of a separate focus, my thought was to kind of do them combined, but some of the people I've been talking to says, no, just focus on one network for now, and then if we want to come back and do the autonomous vehicles. But UTC is doing some phenomenal work in the field of autonomous vehicles.
But more focus on mobility innovation than autonomous, is that what you're saying?
Well, on the communication part of it,
Okay,
the LiDAR and all that.
okay,
And then, of course, the artificial intelligence application and software, cybersecurity, different things like that, which would follow along with the quantum computing. Like I say, a lot of this is a 30,000 foot view, because we really haven't.
right.
But I wanted to get it into this budget so that in this budget year, we can start trying to recruit some of these businesses. I mean,
Will you talk us-
we're still early, and we can still,
Yeah.
we can be on the leading edge of this.
Will you talk us through these 3 bullet points below, those topics? The structured contract, lease for office, that's the part I want to make sure we all hear, and the thoughts about how the qualifications to receive.
Yeah, well, pretty much what they're written out here. We would have to have a contract with EPB and or UTC and or Vanderbilt, Collab and or the Brickyard, basically kind of outlining what the company that is coming is going to bring, how they would be involved in developing this into an economy.
Okay,
EPB would also kind of outline, and this is where I was talking about it would be more than monetary value. It would be, assistance in developing a lot of this technology.
Okay.
But so EPB, UTC, Vanderbilt, all of these individually or as a group. And that's one of the things that we still are going to have to kind of talk through to figure out what that actually looks like. But one of the things that they would need to agree to is establishing an office or a lab here
Okay.
in Chattanooga. Like they have to have a physical footprint in Chattanooga. They have to hire some employees, and we've got a minimum of 5.
Minimum of 5, okay.
So what we're trying to do is entice them to set up camp here. And talking to Sharita, they did a program similar to this in Miami where they would require them to come and set up shop, and then they grew their business from that location.
Okay.
And so that's the thought here, is that they would come, locate, maybe start small, and then just grow their business here once they're here.
Okay. So we're kind of expecting some startup space folks. You've also mentioned bigger fish.
Well, when I say bigger fish, there's obviously companies that's more advanced at a point that they're ready to break out, and others that are still kind of just at that startup point.
Okay.
And that's a lot of what happens down at the Brickyard. These are startup companies that are working night and day trying to get to the next level.
Okay.
And so these would be those, when I say early, not like just somebody's got an idea.
Right, okay.
These are somebody that's ready to take it to the next level, to deploy and begin making money at it.
Okay.
But they need some capital in order to do that. So that's where the incentive program would come into play.
Okay.
Anything else?
Well, I think I appreciate the thoughtfulness about how we would structure, and I know it's early days still, but in as much as quantum is moving quickly, we need to be able to move quickly.
That's quick, yeah.
I know we've had some bumps in the road between the UTC Chattanooga conversation, so hopefully, Kevin, do you feel like that's been smoothed out some?
I do.
Okay, good.
Well, and I guess you saw where EPB just gave a $3.5 million grant to
Right,
UTC.
yeah.
for
So
quantum,
maybe we've got some good leaders in place, but I know that we were sometimes the slow mover in the UTC conversation, so. We just had the discussion about when different monies are allocated. Would this money be put into a fund at the chamber for incentive, or would it stay within the
I
city
think we've got to put it in the IDB.
in the IDB?
I think is what Sharita and I talked about.
Okay, all right, so then, not dissimilar from like, we've put 3 million in for down payment assistance at HEB, it sits.
yeah.
And so this would be a IDB, so that if it takes 6 months to get it rolling, that's cool, because we've got that million set aside. And then Charles might have another million set aside in his
Hopefully,
funds.
yes.
Okay, all right. This is really interesting. Thank you very much for bringing it to us.
Councilman Harvey?
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. I mean, I think about when EPB first introduced fiber optic internet, and we became the first,
Game
the
changer.
first and the fastest internet in the world, and how that really benefited our city. This is that, 2.0, essentially, maybe even bigger. With quantum, we're the first in the world to have it. So something that we need to capitalize on, and so I think this is great. I think just my input on what the companies would be focused on, I think would be quantum. I think that's our biggest opportunity. Like I said, especially being the first one and the only one in the world to have that right now. But maybe it's industries focused around quantum, and so, for example, like Jimmy White was talking about the film and music industry, and how that is desired, and it helps their industry a lot. So that industries that could really benefit from quantum, I think, would be something to focus on. Question: So the $1 million, would that would the city disperse that to these companies, or is that something that would go to the chamber to be dispersed? How does that?
So it'd go to the IDB,
Okay,
and then the IDB would disperse it, but the pitch could be run by the chamber. In other words,
Okay.
if they're marketing, we would advertise this pitch, attract companies into Chattanooga, let them give their pitch, and then my thought would be that EPB and UTC would be the ones to select who they want to work with.
Interesting.
yeah, okay. So the other $1 million that Charles is looking at getting would also go to IDB? Or would that be,
So the chamber may be able to do that in-house.
Okay.
They may be able to fund that in-house. And I'm sure there'll have to be some money raised for advertising, to go out and to reach these folks. So what I want this $1 million to be is the actual incentive.
Sure.
100% of it going to the incentive.
okay, all right.
So it's a partnership play, and
Yeah.
you guys would basically, when you send the money to the IDB, follow up with some instructions around like what the program needs to be, how it's going to look, kind of finalizing and formalizing kind of the rules.
Sure.
And then they would administer the incentive in partnership with input from the administration, you guys, the chamber, everybody working together to kind of stand this thing up.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I think it's great.
Councilman Clark?
I want to, Vice Chairman Elliott is listening virtually, and he's sending me some comments.
Is he texting me too? And I'm just
He is, It's okay. I was like, I got you right here. He wanted to emphasize that as we're developing this quantum business development thing, that we remember the workforce pipeline to support quantum jobs. So like if we're bringing businesses in, then we need to have a conversation with Chattanooga State, the county schools, UTC, all need to play a role in pumping out the right type of jobs or the right type of tech jobs to support the companies that we're trying to bring in. So I don't know if we can allocate money for quantum tech. I don't even know what type of jobs go into.
It's my understanding that the $3.5 million that EPB gave to UTC would be for that. I mean, it's for professors, it's for developing that program. So a lot of that workforce development could come from that.
So, but we are having intentional conversations about what the pipeline is for workforce development. So we bring in a company,
Oh, absolutely.
and then no one from Chattanooga gets those jobs because they're all coming in from Seattle or, Tech Valley. So, but also really quickly and lastly is that Vanderbilt has a more, this is not to your alma mater, but, Vanderbilt has more of a research capacity. And I think, when we talk about UTC, which is good and fine, Vanderbilt's a research institution. And so whatever we do, and I think you mentioned this earlier, and to Councilman Elliott's point, is that we need to make sure that we be more inclusive with that powerhouse.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned that in there, but.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it.
Okay, gotcha. I just wanted to kind of.
In the potential partners, I have just not had a conversation with anybody from Vanderbilt at this point. That's all. Did you have a follow-up?
What I did, to what Councilman Clark was asking, so as Chair of Economic Development, I had a long talk with that department in preparation for budget, and one of the things that we talked about at length, Sharita walked me through, they're calling it the One Chattanooga Works Plan, but this was, I haven't seen a full document of that. However, what we discussed was the pivot on workforce development. And you'll remember from last week how a lot of stuff got called workforce development with ARPA dollars, and they're really clearing out the dust and getting very focused. And something that Sharita said that as it relates to partnering with organizations, they're going to be focused on training toward the jobs that are available or are coming online and funding collaboration toward jobs in our market, not training for things that people are not hiring for. So I think what you're saying, I think is 100% where economic development, workforce development is tracking. So I think my impression would be that if they knew, if this fund were to be created, they would be seeking out, talking with those partners about, okay, here's what we're going to be looking for. What type of jobs do you?
There's a term for that. Is it called micro something? What's that?
Well, there is micro-credentialing.
Micro-credentialing, yeah.
My hypothesis would be that quantum is going to require very highly trained people to begin with. There might, and that's just my guess, having come from a tech company in the past, but when you're working everybody up through the market toward that, and as a mom of a kid that just graduated from college, to think about the city recruiting quantum companies that then have a partnership with UTC, that then your college students can learn directly. I mean, that is an amazing opportunity for students. And then, yeah, obviously the same way that Blue Cross Blue Shield has begun training computer programmers, for example, that go direct into their business.
So in my conversations with the folks at Brickyard, like, if you don't know AI, like, they're not even interested in talking to you. So, I mean, everything that I think that we do in our workforce development is going to have some kind of AI reinforcement with it, because I think that's what the future is going to look like in hiring for these companies.
Yeah, I just want to say, I looked up the EPB press release, and it was $3.5 million to establish a UTC Quantum Center. Yeah, just wanted to establish that.
Mr. Chair.
That's pretty cool.
So I think all of this is going to start tying together
Yeah.
so that we can develop curriculum. Yes, sir.
I was just a little context. I mean, this is a great idea, but this is not the only money flowing in quantum, right? Sure. There are millions of dollars in federal money that we got last year that we're anticipating this year for us, for EPB, for UTC, to go to different verticals. The state just unleashed another, I think, $30 million that will be working in collaboration with them on how to deploy that against all the different issues that you're talking about. And then obviously the incentives piece that we're talking about too. We work on this every week, right? And the mayor leads the Tennessee Quantum Collaborative. Charlie Brock is the executive director on that, good guy. And we talk about the jobs all the time and what are those going to look like. And you can kind of take a crack at that by thinking about, well, what is a computer job, right? Because that's what we're talking about. Well, are you talking about the guy who builds the cable, the person who programs the programs, the person who mines the silicon? It's going to run the gamut, right? Some of them might look like the cable guy, because we have to lay cable to do this, right? And some of them may look like a person with multiple PhDs who's designing the next coding language so that kids in third grade can start learning how to code quantum and everything in between. So we're really casting a wide net on that. It's still, as Councilman Hill suggested, it is still early days, but we are moving very, very quickly and getting a lot of clarity very quickly on that.
Great.
All right. Any other questions around that? And
Bottom line, from the administration's perspective, is this obviously is an area that Mayor Kelly has been hyper-focused on. And we think that this is, an additive strategic play in the ecosystem. We have the capacity to support, and we're happy to.
So I guess you'll get back with me and we'll figure out how that gets placed into economic development for the deployment of the $1 million. Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, Councilman Harvey?
When will we have to vote for this, or how does this?
So, all of these incentives, everything that we're talking about today, I guess it would be nice if we could sort of get I just lost the word.
Final draft.
Well, not a final draft.
Consensus on what we
Thank
want
you.
to change.
I think we need a consensus that at least the majority of us are in favor of the changes that's going to be proposed, and there's some more to be proposed. We certainly we certainly don't want to get the budget to a place that the majority is not in favor of. Sure. You follow me?
Yeah.
So I think at some point before the day's over, we need to reach some kind of consensus that, yeah, we're good with the changes that's being asked for, with changes to the agencies that we're suggesting. And I think, Chief, this thing needs to be fully baked by June 1st. Is that correct?
We would love for it to be fully baked by June 1st.
When you say it, what are you talking about?
I'm sorry?
Budget ordinance.
Oh, the budget. I thought you were just talking about this.
So we're ready.
So just to kind of put a finer point on that. So we're having conversations around the proposed agencies. Well, those need to actually be enumerated in the budget ordinance. We're having a conversation about this initiative. This would be reflected in the budget ordinance. We're having a conversation around the reallocation of a portion of the down payment assistance funding over to the community land trust. So once we get to a spot where all of that seems like everybody's in favor of it or a critical mass, then those provisions will be in the actual ordinance for the hearing. And so we want to get all of the ideas onto the table that might impact the budget ordinance so that we can just do one final draft and it would be smooth sailing from there.
That would be great to get to one final draft, not to have to do
Yeah.
an amendment.
Yeah, what I would like to see is a clean bill on the table, not without having to make amendments.
That'd be great.
Chairman?
Yes, I'm assuming that same deadline would apply for the new council position that's been proposed that would affect our council budget, is that?
Well, I think as
correct?
long as we have the dollars allocated,
Okay,
I don't think it would have to have the actual position or description. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I think all we need is that allocation of dollars.
No, you would need the position and ordinance as well.
The ordinance lists all the positions, so right now you guys have 12 positions in city council, we'd have to add.
that's what I was thinking, yeah.
Position to the actual
I thought
ordinance.
we just had to move the money around, like to
We have to authorize the actual head
the
count.
language, like what.
Go to the position. Is what-
The number- the total
That's right,
number
because
of
y'all
employees.
list positions in this ordinance, don't you?
And we watch them like a hawk. So it's only fair that we would watch ours like a hawk.
I know Vice Chair Elliott's not here right now, but I know he's listening, and I know that
Tracking.
that's his proposal and that it's on our agenda this afternoon as a discussion item, so I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure
Yeah,
we've got everything included as we move forward. So,
as long as we have it by June 1st.
okay.
Okay. Council, it's gonna be about another 45 minutes before lunch is here. Councilman Harvey, do you want to go ahead and talk about your budget policy presentation? or
Yeah.
Resolution?
Yeah, I
And
will.
and then that probably might take us up to the lunchtime. Then that way, after lunch, we will just be dealing with the
Okay.
community land trust.
After some consideration, it needs some more time. I'm still working on some language, but I'll go ahead and talk about the premise. Last year, the center of our conversations was prioritizing our first responders and how we do a cost of living increase every year. And so that's the language I'm working on. I've been in talks with our chief of staff and some others on some language and how that should read. So I'm still putting that together. And once I do, this policy will not affect this year's budget since fortunately we're doing a COLA this year, thankfully. So it will not affect this year's budget. But so that's what I'll be bringing to you all once I feel like it's ready to be debated.
Okay.
And then
Now, and we can always hear it in a budget budget finance committee.
Sure.
Once you get it.
Right, yeah,
baked.
yeah. I didn't want to rush it.
Yeah.
I felt it was a little rushed, so after looking at it, I wanted to be the right thing. So so we'll hold off on today, and I'll get with you on schedule on a committee or something like that to bring it forth.
Well,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I mean, I have more than enough questions and answers related to the land trust if we want to let those board members just have their hour back. And we could just go ahead and do this.
Oh, well, I thought maybe you wanted them to be here for the,
No, they asked if
Discussion.
they would they asked about coming, and I said, sure, if you want to come.
Oh,
But they
okay.
don't
Well,
have to.
I mean, that's up to you. We can go ahead and cover that now.
Well,
or
so council,
are you,
so I've,
y'all prepared or?
Proceed, sure.
Okay.
so, well, I'll take a little poll here. So, I've got a question and answer document that I'm ready to go over related to especially a couple of the main questions that were asked. But the members of the board of the Tennessee Valley Community Land Trust are planning to come after lunch if we have questions. So what I would ask to you all is, would you prefer to wait until they're here and do that and have them so that they could answer questions, or would you like to go ahead? Because we could potentially just reconvene
Yeah,
at
we
the
could-
time
we
you
could
wanted
break-
to
We
reconvene.
could break until 12:30. I mean,
I think it'd be helpful to have them around the
To have them
table.
here?
I'd just say.
Around the table? Okay. Well, they would be thrilled to get to be around the table. Okay. All right, well then, yeah, let's just wait then.
okay, so we'll break then until 12:30. Is
Okay.
that what time they were planning on being here?
I sent them a picture after lunch, so I'll text
That's
somebody.
fine. Let's just break till 12:30. That'll give us a little bit of a break and then, give us time to get lunch.
Okay,
We'll just reconvene at 12:30.
Okay.
Chief, you good with that? Yes. Okay, all right. We'll
Thank
see you at
you.
12:30.
thank you very much.
Fantastic.
12:30, so we're going to pick up where we left off, and I'll turn it over to, at this time, Councilwoman Hill for the Community Land Trust follow-up.
Okay, thank you. So council, you asked some really terrific questions last week, and I have gotten the answers to those, so I wanted to spend some time going over them today. We do have a couple members of the founding board of the Tennessee Valley Community Land Trust and an advisor to the Community Land Trust here. So since Chairman Davis and Chairman Henderson are okay with that, we'll invite them to come up to the table. So we've got Janice Gooden, Michael Gilliland, and Chris Thompson here today. So Michael and Janice are both on the founding board.
Oh, sorry.
And
That's okay. I just want to make sure. You want to sit right here?
I do. Can I?
Oh, absolutely.
and serve on
Best seat in
Caleb.
the house.
And I'll add that Caleb, actually, Michael and Janice both were on the Economic Development Committee for Caleb years ago. I'm not sure that's exactly what you called it. When I was originally running for city council, and they had done a great deal of research on community land trust and brought that idea to me, and I was immediately fascinated and saw the way that it really could connect the dots. Chris Thompson is the CEO of Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise, where Councilwoman Dotley is on the board, and they have been a advisor as part of this process. Would that be a good way to describe seeing these on there? Okay. Okay, so just a reminder, the proposal that I have made is that within a line item in the economic development budget, that we allocate $2.25 million toward the existing down payment assistance program under the current program guidelines, so making no changes to those guidelines and policies, and make a $750,000 one-time investment toward operating expenses for the Tennessee Valley Community Land Trust. There was a third point in this, which was to reallocate $125,000 in funding to create an economic development incentive manager position. But having spoken with Richard Beeland in economic development, they have the headcount to be able to do that economic development incentive manager position along with the special housing programs manager position. So for this council's purposes, they're going to have it either way, so no sense in making a change there. So I'd like to take that off of the table and only focus on the $750,000.
So would that 125 go back to the DPA program?
No, it was never part of the
Oh,
DPA
it wasn't part of
program.
that?
It's a funded position
Okay.
within the economic development budget. So we were
Oh.
touching two portions of the budget.
Okay.
So the first thing to level set with is just the bigger question of what is a community land trust. And essentially, a community land trust separates the ownership of the land from the ownership of the building to create permanently affordable housing. And because the land is separated from the home can sell for a significantly lower price. So homeowners build equity, they enjoy all the benefits of ownership, but they do agree in advance when they purchase the home to resale restrictions that keep the home affordable for the next buyer, so preserving investment across generations. So with that, there were two really big questions three actually, that I took from our conversation, though I've got more answers than just that. But one was, how in the world does this actually preserve subsidy long-term? Because, right now we're putting $15,000 toward down payment assistance. So what does that look like over the long term? The second was, how do people build wealth within a community land trust, and specifically within the model that you all are developing for the Tennessee Valley Community Land Trust? Because those two things, at least for me, and I think for some of my colleagues as public servants, that's what we're looking for, is the ROI for the community and for the community dollars. And then also how communication will work, how education will work around how people understand what the opportunities are, but what the trade-offs are. So how does the CLT model preserve subsidy? So resale is capped by a formula. So the home can only sell at what the next income qualified buyer can afford. And this is all set up in the beginning of the transaction. So the original subsidy, the gap between the market price and the affordable sales price, stays embedded in the home rather than leaving with the seller. So future buyer benefits from the same subsidy, which stretches one investment, one public investment in this case, across multiple generations of homeowners. So if you take a look at this graph, if we look at the initial sale for the first family, if the family can afford a home for $225,000, but they're trying to buy a house at a market price of $312,000, and y'all will remember that our area median home price is $340,000. So all the work we're doing with affordable housing, in my mind, is about incremental change. So like we're making improvements to our building LDO policies. We're making improvements to the way that we handle our pilots and our TIFs. You know, all these things all go as tools in the toolkit. But so you'll see that home right now, for the affordability, the buyer would need a one-time subsidy of $87,000. Now, the way that down payments work, obviously a down payment can help lower the cost of the home. So that $15,000 is going to make a home more affordable. But that gap is at $87,000. Now, 7 years on, that gap becomes $141. Go to 228 14 years later, and 21 years later, if we were, as a city council 21 years from now, wanting to do something, we'd be looking for $350,000 in subsidy. That is not sustainable, in my mind, over the long term. So when we think about the way that inflation is going to grow, the way that home values, property values are going to increase, what we're looking for is a way to keep the subsidy growing along with the property. So the CLT, by having this model of separating the land from the home, is able to serve folks who are between 50% and 100% area median income. Now remember, our down payment assistance program is capped at 120% AMI, which is great because there's still a huge gap right now at 120% AMI. So this increases the number of neighbors that could potentially become homeowners if a home is held within the land trust. So what that means is, I think the sweet spot probably for the CLT is going to be between $57,000 and $76,000 in salary a year. And a family of four at 60% AMI, just to start putting some real numbers with it, can afford a $150,000 home. Go on the MLS and try to find a $150,000 home that can comfortably and safely be a great home for a family of four. You're going to be hard pressed. Again, 9 years ago, we weren't hard pressed. It's just the things have changed. So big question then, how do homeowners build wealth? So the buyer gets all of their equity back on their purchase. We talked a lot about that. So all of the money that the buyer puts toward the principal of the home and their initial down payment, they get that back out. They also get 2% appreciation for each year that they live in their home. So I think the appreciation cap is more where we see how the formula helps preserve affordability. So there's two examples here that the CLT was able to provide to me. Both of our examples for a family of three. So I think what we've seen in other down payment assistance programs is we often have first-time home buyers who are a single mom with a couple kids. So this is a good example in this way. So if a woman who's qualified to purchase a home, family of three, $52,000 a year, her initial purchase price within a CLT for a home would be, they would figure the affordability at a $154,000 home. She would bring an estimated down payment of $1,315 to the home purchase. She lived in it for 7 years. She would walk away with all of her equity, all of her initial estimated down payment. So $37,500, which is a 28.5% or 28.5x return on investment on her down payment. So multiply 1315 by 28 and you get how much money she has made in 7 years. So there's another example at 80%. But you see also that the sale price for that house has also increased in both scenarios. And the home prices are on a sliding scale based on the median income of that home buyer. So what you see is that the second time that house sells 7 years later, you're at 177.9 because things have moved up. That home has appreciated, but it's still going to be affordable in 7 years to somebody at about 60% AMI. So in terms of educating potential buyers, the Tennessee Valley Community Land Trust will offer CLT Homeowner 101 classes, and those classes will explain the trade-offs of the model, how people will receive support as CLT homeowners. That's something that I think is kind of cool. You become a homeowner with other homeowners in your same network, right? That you can learn together. I've seen how at the Atlanta Land Trust, they create content around home maintenance, for example, and there are classes that you can attend. So you learn how to, change the air vents and fix the leaky pipe, that kind of thing. But also it's followed by an 8-hour certified homebuyer education program and then ongoing post-purchase education and stewardship. Now, as the Land Trust thinks about community engagement, in the near and long term, I do get the impression that Michael, Janice, Vice Chairman Elliott will be looking for, feedback. And I think we as a city council in making a leadership commitment to this organization would certainly be voices that would be heard. But their thoughts at this point is that the Land Trust and Caleb will partner closely on community engagement through events, local media, podcasts, neighborhood association meetings, resource fairs. They'll offer monthly CLT Homeowner 101 classes to explain the model, including the resale formula, how it preserves affordability, because it's very fair. This is a very different way of buying a house. It makes a lot of sense that people would say, what in the world? And if the idea piques their curiosity, would have every reason to want to learn more and really make sure they understand it. There's also a documentary called Holding Ground, which is a film that traces the community land trust movement all the way to the civil rights era with sharecroppers who were working to preserve ownership of their land and control of their communities. So there'll be regular viewings of that film as well. So a couple other questions are there about how affordability stays in the home over time. So I've already talked about the fact that appreciation is limited to 2% per year. So by limiting the sale price, and this is a choice that the homeowner makes when they purchase this home, that they've said, I want to pay that forward, and we're going to limit the sale price over time so the next person can benefit. There is a goal for the pipeline, and I think we can let some of our board members talk about that. I know that Vice Chair Elliott brought it up last week as well, but there's a thought around partnerships and awareness to build the pipeline for housing units. Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise has a couple of homes that they're going to put into the CLT. They target a mix of 15 homes and lots in the first year. But also there are land bank lots. We talked about that briefly. There are lots that are not in the land bank that are potentially there. But also something that I found was pretty exciting was that the Land Trust and CNE have already had private developers and landowners inquire about conveying lots and parcels into the Land Trust. So you start to build energy toward this community investment. And then finally, the Land Trust is open to buyer-initiated opportunities where existing homeowners choose to sell through the Land Trust to make their home permanently affordable, so providing an additional means of inventory. So that's a lot for me with all those Q&A, but that way nobody had to read it all. I could read it to you. Any questions?
Councilwoman Dolly, then Councilman Hall.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Councilwoman Hill, for the thorough explanation and all of the information regarding it. I did have a question about the chart itself. So these numbers on the chart are only for the house, not for the land.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
All right. And then this 2% appreciation is the cap. Is that the lease
Yes.
included resale price? Okay. And then I think a part of the ask for this one was that they would get matching funds. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that is my proposal, that they would, that to draw down this full amount in a single fiscal year, that the Community Land Trust would need to be able to show that they have $1.5 million in subsidy planned.
Okay. And do they already have they already raised any money as of yet?
I believe that they are raising money and have $1 million. So they would need to raise an additional 5.
Okay, so they pretty much on track with what they
are.
need for the matching.
Yes.
And then, and as I kind of, stated before, I'm not necessarily against a land trust. But given again, the people that are within that category, which typically are going to be into moderate to low income areas, a shared equity model or capping the resale value at 2% per year is a trade-off for their equity can be hard to grab. Education is going to be very important because, we come from a tradition of, especially again, the communities like the neighborhoods you mentioned in this one were, like the Tubman side or Southern Street, or when you look at, I would think my neighborhood, like O's Avenue, places like that. Those are, I've called it before, poverty pockets. So when you're looking at areas with low income and a lot of time high density, and then this seems more, and I'll just say it the way my people say it, seems more predatory. Well, they already can't afford it. Well, you can afford it, but you got to share your equity with me. Whereas, in areas that were already redlined. So when you think about the history of housing and the history of how that's impacted people in some of these core neighborhoods, it becomes, what is this? What does it, and I think that's why I say education. Like, what is and I see the classes and all these things, but like before this even came, this was something that in a neighborhood meeting, it came up about, I would say O's Avenue particularly, as we were trying to, is this in a land trust, is it a land bank? And once we got into it, they were just not a fan of it because the thought of, we already down and out, okay, and then we want to buy a house, okay, cool, let me try to go through whatever processes to get the house, and then when I get the house and I want to sell it, now I can't sell it for whatever I want to sell it for, but I can only sell the house, and then I'm only getting a small percentage of that, and that's a trade-off of that. So that becomes the issue, and I am a board member of CNE, as discloses what Chris knows, but also Chris knows this. CNE being attached to this is also a hard hit too for our communities again, because of some of the history of CNE. Not opposed to CNE, wouldn't have gone on the board if I was opposed to CNE, but also, there's some historical context to this that will pose itself as a problem in the communities you want to develop these things in. So I would say, I won't say tread lightly, but I would say, make sure that there's education around this. Make sure there's buy-in from the community, and they know, if you're buying this lot in this community, let's talk about what this is.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be, without that buy-in there, without that, you're going to have land trust with that target audience that you're never going to get. So that's just kind of my take on it. It just seemed really.
Would you like some of the board members to talk to the fear of it being predatory?
Yes, that'd be
'Cause
fine. Thank you,
I
Councilwoman.
think that's
Yes.
important.
Yes.
Do y'all have anything to add about is it predatory or seems predatory thinking?
I can, you wanna go? Sure. Yeah.
Well, I think, let me, Councilman, Ellie, if you don't mind, I would like to hear from Michael or somebody on the board, because they've been dealing with it, not the board. Thank you so much. But I know we've worked together in the past for a while on different things, and we've talked about this before. So I would love to hear your take. And I know you've been out in our neighborhoods. You know what it's like, those conversations. So it'd be good to just hear your take on it, or Ms. Janice, because I know we've been around and we know you've heard it, you know what I mean? So I would love to hear your take.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you, Vice Chair.
And I understand where the concern comes from. I will say that we already have
strong community support, and that community support is going to build as we communicate more. But the community land trust at its heart is about balancing the needs both of homeowners and of our community at large. And I think that that's something that working class Chattanoogans across our city already understand. They know that there needs to be investment in homes that people can afford, that our communities are being priced out from under us. And I think that there's awareness too that it's only getting worse, that the divide between what the market is going to be setting the price of a home versus what our nurses, our teachers, our firefighters are able to afford is only going to grow in time. So the real question is about how do you do that effectively, rather than an investment to each individual homeowner over the years that's going to have diminishing returns. I mean, the city has invested more in affordable housing in the past 2 terms than has ever been invested by city dollars towards affordable housing. But we're not able to keep up with the market. What the Community Land Trust does is provide an anchor of stability in communities. It provides the surest guarantee against the forces of gentrification for communities, not just for initial homeowners, but that every homeowner in the future is going to be able to take advantage of that initial subsidy. That support is going to transfer to homeowners and homeowners. So we're not just talking about the stability of a homeowner, we're talking about the stability of a community. And we get both out of that because the homeowner is able to take out the full equity of their mortgage. If they want to stay in the home and transfer it to an heir for 100 years, then they can own that home forever. But if not, and typically around the country, community land trust homes, the average is around 7 to 10 years of transfer. So what people are doing is they're using this opportunity as a stepping stone to build equity for themselves. And at whatever point they choose to, or they need to, they can then use that opportunity to go out and purchase a home on the private market. But what this model allows is that while they're able to do that, that home is still going to be guaranteed affordable long term. The homes that CNE has built that are already set to be put into a land trust, a home in Highland Park that we were at last week, that home, when it's put in the land trust 50 years from now, it's still going to be affordable for a family. And that's what we're talking about, is being able to provide that long-term island of support for working class Chattanoogans. So the homeowner does get the support. It also provides a way to make sure that our neighborhoods remain economically diverse over the long term.
Okay, that's good. So thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. And then I'm gonna go to Chris because I know Chris always have an answer for me.
Let me jump in.
Yes, Ms. Jean.
Because I have to leave.
Oh, okay. I do too, actually. But you go ahead, Ms. Jean.
Okay. So my connection with Community Land Trust, I had no idea that this existed until I was at a neighborhood university class that was offered by the city, maybe 2018. So I thought it was an interesting concept. But then later when I connected with Caleb, I realized that there was some education. And I had no idea it was tied to the civil rights movement. That was interesting to me. So my desire was to learn more, and I think as people begin to get educated and understand what it is, and that the fact that each land trust is built based on where you are. So there's a lot of material, education, opportunities, and I think when people understand, they can make their own decision. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Some may be for it and some may not, but it's
Or it could be a dual path, like Councilman Henderson said, Chairman Henderson said. So for Chris, and I promise I'll be finished, Mr. Chair. Okay, and I mentioned the role of CNE. I mean, you've had these discussions about kind of how CNE in the past has treated our communities. Could you speak to the role of CNE, speak to the role of where y'all are, where we are now, and kind of what that looks like?
C&E more broadly? or
C&E more
related to
broadly
this?
and related to this, but you can be brief in the broadly part.
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity. Just preferred affordability partner is what we look at C&E. I'm aware of some of that history, and we need to do some things to address that, to know we're on a better and more positive path moving forward. So we really are talking about how we better partner with community members, nonprofit organizations, the faith community, the school district, talking about teacher housing. How can we support efforts driven by others and owned by others so that it doesn't come that we're the ones owning things? We want to support the efforts of others in their neighborhoods, in their communities, as they think about their goal of providing affordable housing. So that's a key for us in thinking that way, being more and better engaged in community, providing more. The CLT provides neighborhood ownership through a tripartite board, if you will. The community, the residents own the CLT. They have decision-making authority in that, which looks different than C&E. We have a nonprofit board, but to engage the residents as up to a third of that board is meaningful. So what happens with the CLT over time will be determined by residents of the community. C&E thinks that's critically important to supporting neighborhood development and transformation, and supporting nonprofit organizations throughout the community, faith-based community, schools, and other nonprofit organizations. So we're really headed that way and thinking that way. Importantly, the CLT is not owned by C&E. It is a separate, independent, nonprofit organization. C&E is supportive of this, as we are with any other partner, school district, church organization. We're working with various churches as well to provide. We know how to build houses. So we're going to build houses through C&E. We have 2 right now that are ready to go into the Community Land Trust. A 3-bed, 2-bath modular and a 2-bed, 2.5-bath stick build in the Highland Park area. So we have other lots. We are going to be donating other lots into it with homes on it for the CLT. You talk about how we're going to get to the inventory, the number we're seeking. C&E is committed to that. So we're going to build, and then we're going to donate that or convey that into the Community Land Trust.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Of course, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much, Councilwoman Hill.
Councilman Harvey.
Yeah, just a few statements before I ask a question. I think this is a good opportunity for our working class. I think you hit the nail on the head. This is what I think of when I think of a hand up to help someone in their situation. Where Chattanooga Police Department officers are living? Not downtown. Birchwood, South Pittsburgh, Sale Creek. A first-year cadet can't afford to live in downtown Chattanooga. Heck, I can't afford to live in downtown Chattanooga. So I think this is a good opportunity to help folks like that get their first home. I mean, I think that's the important thing is this is really designed to help folks get their first home, and then they once they have salary increases and that kind of thing, and they're in a better situation, then they can go on and buy a home where they can build more equity in it. But that's the trade-off, right? Is this is a more affordable option. And then if you don't have to do this program. I think that's the other thing is you don't like it, you don't have to buy a home with the land trust. So I think that's just a few of my thoughts. But I guess I'd like to hear from the board members. Should you get this $750? $750,000. Sorry. What this discussion? Right. What do you see? How do you see yourself using those funds toward your operating expenses?
Well, so part of C&E being involved in that is to reduce or help defray cost. A lot of CLTs have a lot of startup with operating costs. By virtue of C&E being a part and helping to administer that, it actually reduces that cost to the CLT, providing for more opportunity to be successful over the next 3 to 5 years to build out the 200 homes. But with that, we're looking at various staff. Right now or today, we'll be interviewing some folks and into later this week for CLT director to come in and run the program, if you will, on behalf of the CLT board. There's some other critical areas. We talk a lot about stewardship. Importantly, very critical aspect of this is making sure people are comfortable in knowing what it is to be a homeowner. We talk about lending and some type of predatory lending that goes out there. We're providing education, we're providing support, we're a partner with the homeowner to identify lending and financial services for them. Back in the crisis of 2008, when we had a ton of foreclosures, the most successful avoidance mechanism for avoiding foreclosure was to be a homeowner in a CLT with less than 1% of those homeowners suffering from potential foreclosure. That's huge.
Yeah.
That is because of relationships with banks and working and educating homeowners to ensure that they stay in a home when others were not able to do that. So you talk about stability in that. These operating funds would support stewardship and providing a director of stewardship for the organization, a CLT director to be working with partners to consider conveyance of land appropriately. The only way we get to affordable housing, I say this all the time, is no cost, low cost land and low cost money. If we don't check both boxes, we cannot provide affordable housing. And your support as a city with C&E and thinking about the down payment assistance program, great. It's an all hands on deck here. And so this provides that opportunity, and through that operating support, we can take the money that has already been dedicated and others who are interested in committing funds to us towards that necessary subsidy to reduce that cost ultimately of that home for a family.
I guess my main concern, and overall I support this. My main concern is in the past, the city has given money to other organizations who shall not be named, who have gone overboard on salaries and padded salaries, and we didn't really see the return on investment. And so that's just my main concern is making sure that should you get the $750,000, that those funds are used appropriately. And like I said, you're not padding salaries and adding unneeded positions and those things like that.
Absolutely. So we have just those stewardship, absolutely necessary, CLT director, absolutely necessary. And the other thing about this is those unnamed organizations will not be, these residents will be helping to determine, it'll be a community endeavor to determine, making sure we're responsible with the dollars and the investment being made. And I think that's a critical piece of this. The entire community can be a member of the CLT. That's built into the system, and they can have representatives on that board. We have other representatives who've already indicated to be a part of that. So that will help, I think, in terms of concern about where we're headed and how we're pricing things from an operating standpoint, to know that you have that oversight that's occurring, and that's community oversight. That's not independent nonprofit board. That is a community oversight that includes residents and other community members.
Yeah, sure.
The other thing I'll mention real quick is just number of homes. You're expecting your dollar to be invested wisely to create homes. We're looking at a very aggressive, if we hit this aggressive, we're the largest CLT in the state of Tennessee. So you're expecting production. We expect production. For that investment, there will be a return on investment to the tune of roughly 200 homes plus in a CLT. And for a CLT, that's extremely aggressive. We got to be bold, we got to go big, and we have to do better by our residents. The CLT affords us that opportunity, and we think that'll be a very wise investment. You're going to get to see every year those numbers. You're going to know, whoop, here's how many homes we have, and here's the plan to get more homes online for families.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councilwoman Nolan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Michael is my neighbor, by the way. I love Michael. I'm not sold on it. I made that plain and clear last week. I would say that I'm totally against it, but I'm not sold on it. And the reason, again, I'm not sold on it is that, once again, you have individuals telling you what you need, when the people have already spoken and told you what they want and they need themselves. You want to place something before people. Why can't we ever have the total package? Why do we have to have, you can have this, but you can't have that? Why can't you have both of them? Why can't they not have the land as well as the building itself? It's a plantation mentality for me. This is what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing with this. You want to decide that you want to make a neighborhood of this land bank, and you want to have a site set. And I see and hear in your presentation, Councilwoman Hill, potential of the Harriet Tubman site.
That was provided by the CLT.
Okay, so that is within the Great District 8. And this would never, ever work in the Harriet Tubman site because the people have already spoken as to what they want on that site. This is definitely not it. And I'm gonna have to piggyback with Councilwoman Dottley on C&E as far as us. The issue is there, and it has been there, and rightfully so, because they were done wrong, and have always been done wrong. And Councilman Harvey said, a hands up. That's what you think is a hands up. But talk to our people and see what they consider a hands up. Okay? So, not being able to own the land as well as the house, if you can find money to do that, then you can find money to have it affordable for people to have the land as well as the house. And not always telling us we have to have a piece of something. We can never have it all. You have to accept this. If you want to do this, then this is what we have to offer you. You either take this or you leave it. No, I'm not on board with it. And I don't know, from my constituents and conversation we have had, they are not a fan of it.
Michael, do you want
thank
to
you.
address any of that, the why, how it works, or any of those concerns?
Well, I think for me, I'll speak personally. I feel like I've been engaged in housing for all people in Chattanooga for a long time in the city, and I don't ever plan on leaving it. I plan to die in the home that my wife and I currently live in Orchard Dog. And over this time, I've seen increasingly strong barriers to that being realistic for working class families in Chattanooga, because it's not just a question of the amount of subsidy, it's a question of the amount of investment going towards the type of housing that people can actually afford, largely cut at the federal level, making that not available. And at the same time, we're facing market pressures that we have literally never seen before. And when I say market pressures, I'm not just meaning people with higher salaries coming from out of town. I'm also talking about investment portfolios, major real estate speculators that have taken an eye to Chattanooga and begun purchasing huge amounts of property that regular families can't compete with. That's a new pressure. And if we can't provide a shield or a barrier to that, we could invest what little resources we have in another model, in direct support where homeowners are taking full advantage of equity. But to do that, you're going to have to create an increasing amount of subsidy every year to maintain it. What the Community Land Trust, the reason why I've been advocating for this model for 10 years is that this provides a shield that we can all of a sudden begin to take real estate and protect it for those families long term. Not every family, not a whole neighborhood, but if you're talking about South Chattanooga as a great example, with the development of the stadium and the increased speculation that comes about from in real estate, being able to have a land trust allows for protected real estate that's going to make sure that those homes are going to be working class homes from now into perpetuity. Right now, the city doesn't have that option. We don't have a tool to be able to do that effectively. So I want to see, like Orchard Knob has been working class, what was originally teacher-focused neighborhood. Now that's the market has changed. The people that are able to purchase on this current competitive market has totally changed. I want to make sure that teachers are still able to afford to live in my neighborhood when I'm old. And I don't see another option to be able to do that sustainably unless we're able to start investing in community resources rather than individual resources. That's what I would say.
Let me just move the conversation along. Did you have any follow-ups to that, Councilwoman?
My only follow-up would be, Mr. Chair, would be, if this is such a great thing, then let's continue to have a conversation that will come up that would be a great thing in order for it to be a total package. You don't have to always jump on the first bandwagon. I don't see that. I don't see, once again, I will say it and I will say it until I have my last breath. So sick and tired of telling us what we have to have and not helping to figure out what we can give you as to what you want. Once again, it's piling us up on a plot or a piece of land somewhere and say, this is what you have. You do this with it or you don't. It's just not, once again, it's that plantation mentality. This is what y'all gonna get. Now you take that and go on with it. Go on with it now. Cause that's it. If you don't take this, you ain't gonna get nothing. Then you need to figure out, we need to figure out, not you, we need to figure out another way that we can be supported. And it's always brought over into the underprivileged neighborhood. Who in this, at this table, that is not living in an underprivileged neighborhood that would want that land bank, that you would take it into your neighborhood? Let's just be straight up here. Okay, do you have a place to place it there?
So
That it would be affordable?
So one of the things that was noted in the Q&A was that they were going to allow buyer-initiated opportunities with existing homeowners who choose to sell through the CLT to make their home permanently affordable. So I know that there's conversation around multiple lots in different areas of the community, not just in District 8. And I imagine if you said you don't want a land trust in District 8, you don't, I mean, that would be something that would, you could say. But for me, is there a large plot of land? Unfortunately, there's not. I'm in full support of a different multifamily housing project in my district. But that's exactly why, for me, I feel like we needed land trusts, because they're fewer and fewer. I mean, I've knocked on doors of homes that had folks who were working on the curtains at the Tivoli that are part of the union for people who work in stagecraft. And now that home has been torn down and a 5,000 square foot home is there. So I am seeing my neighborhoods where we are rapidly in District 2 losing housing that has traditionally been affordable. So for me, when you ask that question, 100%, I would love that. And I think when we think about the we and who is the we or you of home ownership, it's anyone and everyone who's buying their first home, whether they're a 21-year-old or a 52-year-old. And in my mind, finding a way to preserve the value of the subsidy that we have, which right now we have $15,000, which goes a little way, doesn't go a super long way. Preserve the value of that, so the concepts that we have that we want to invest in, housing affordability and attainability for people who live in Chattanooga, along with a wealth generation component. From where I sit, and I acknowledge it's not where you sit, but for me, that is a win.
Okay, so let me say this, Councilwoman Hill. In your paper, you put potential of Harriet Tubman. If there was other potential sites in this city, why were they not listed? Why was this particular site listed, and it is in an underserved neighborhood and in the Great District 8? If you had potential, if C&D had potential of the places, explain to me why Harriet Tubman site was singled out in this particular thing. Once again, that coming in, backdooring, saying this is what, let me finish, please.
Sure.
I was respectful to you, and I would
100%.
appreciate that you do the same to me. Okay. So if there was other potential locations, explain to me why they are not listed.
I'm happy to. The one reason that is even referenced is because there was an RFP for that land. I'm just sharing, and we just shared an example of land that was put out for accepting proposals about what to do with it. I use that merely as an example, and we use that merely as an example. There is land, whether it's this location or a variety of other locations, that we could better use and provide better access to provide housing. It may not be. C&E's putting in 15 lots. So we're looking all over town to be able to do that, and we're getting approached in other places. That was merely by way of an example. There's land that has been sitting there for some amount of time. There are other locations, but that had been publicly RFP'd. So that's the only reason notice that it had even been referenced.
Okay, but the RFP on there, it would not, the Land Trust Bank does not fulfill the RFP for this Tubman site. Should never even been put on the table. There's nothing in that RFP for Tubman site that would say the land bank should be a potential for that. Nothing.
Okay.
Been working on it for years. Nothing.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm good.
Councilman Ellie.
No, I'm all right.
You good? You don't? Okay. Councilman Harvey, you got a follow-up?
Yeah, I mean, to Councilwoman Knowles' point, would your model work with a land and a home? Why or why not?
Oh, as a board member?
No, just context in general.
Well, okay. You got,
So Megan and Nicole and the rest of their team have done a very good job of creating other options to create affordable housing. And one of theirs, Megan, please excuse me if I describe it incorrectly. And we've had one project with this so far in Councilman Dolly's district, and I think they're looking at another one in mine, where we have city-owned land, we take it through the land bank, they clean it up, and it's a pilot program, if I'm not mistaken, where they will give the land to developers to develop, but they have to sell it at a certain cap. I think it's 230,000, I believe. So they can't sell it any more than 230,000, and it has to stay affordable. 15 years? See, look, I should get a job in the housing office for 15 years. But that's 15 years of affordability. But you also got to be mindful, it's expensive to build things too. And so you just don't have people just, especially in our development market, just jumping to build these houses because the margins are going to be small, but it does ensure affordability. It's an extra tool we could use to what Councilman Noel was mentioning, and it's out there and available. We just don't have a whole bunch of folks just jumping at it.
But for this model, do the numbers work
No.
to own both the land and the home? Why?
Well, if you look at this graph and you see the difference in the price you want to sell it for and the price that it's valued at, the land itself is a significant portion of the subsidy as time goes on. So $15,000, to use that as our current example, does not begin to close an $87,000 gap. The way you start to close that is you take $40,000 off the price, 40 to 60 for the value of the lot itself. So if that lot is worth $40,000 now and it's worth 80 the next 7 years and so on and so on. So that's why that works. Like, money doesn't fall from the sky, right? Like, the things cost money, and so this is a way of separating that land so you have the cost, the value of the land from the value of the home. If it did work, people would do it.
So two methods. One, we can just deed restrict it. You talk about some of the pilot, we can just deed restrict and say for 15 years you can only you can sell it at a certain price. Or we can take the land piece of that, provide additional support to that homeowner through stewardship and working with banks. As I indicated, we don't foreclose. Often we ensure the quality of the homes by virtue of our ground lease. It's out there for 99 years. So we go well beyond the 15 to do what a deed restriction can do. Deed restrictions have private enforcement. You have a community of neighbors and residents that are helping to support the community land trust. But either way, we've got to find some restriction to cap it to make sure it's generationally affordable. We do that through the land and the subsidy by taking that piece out. But we don't take it out, we give it to the community through the community land trust that actually operates that. The other approach is to deed restrict. But either way, that gets back to low-cost land. We've got to do something with the land. We cannot make that apart. You see the subsidies that we talked about here. We got to make up in year 7, $141,000, that'll break the bank. There's no way that we can provide affordable housing at an inexpensive rate to make it safe, quality housing, knowing that those are the numbers that somebody's going to come back to you in a few years and ask for at that rate. It's just not workable. We talk about making the numbers work to do the best we can, given the current circumstance and the way the CLT does that. And by the way, they've been around. I've seen a lot of shiny objects in real estate development, lots of them. This is not a shiny object. This has been around since the 70s. There are hundreds of CLTs around the United States that are tremendously successful at keeping things affordable while building equity and wealth for families. So we could look at a lot of other things. I hear them every day. This is not one of those new shiny objects, so let's try this. This is proven to be effective. It's proven to build wealth for families, but it has also proven to keep homes generationally affordable beyond most deed restrictions of 15, 20 years. So that's, and the other thing is, it's all hands on deck. This is not either or territory. We need down payment assistance, and fortunate the city is looking to do that, and we're working with private partners on more DPA. So we need DPA, but we also need other ways to be able to build affordably and preserve it. C&E gets picked on for the south side. I know that. I'm new, been around here for a year. What you did in the south side, we had really affordable homes built in the south side. Who can afford them now? The CLT, if we would have had that tool then when we built those would have been much more affordable to folks today. And so we see that. We're trying to learn from our history about how do we do better by neighborhoods. We build up neighborhoods with brand new homes, but how do we ensure affordability? Boy, the CLT is a method that is tried and true, has worked in hundreds of communities for over 50 years. And so that's just another tool to put in, together with DPA, together with deed restricted land through land bank. We need it all. And so hopefully this is something else we can provide as an option to working families. You talk about, folks, you've talked about working families here in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
So what I'm hearing you say is.
Wait a minute.
Sorry.
Oh, wait, no, that's right. I'm sorry. You got.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is you would love to offer both land and home ownership, the whole total package. You can't because the math doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's
That's essentially it. And to preserve that, we have to find some way to restrict over time to keep it generationally affordable. And there are really two ways to do that. We can deed restrict it, or we can do this. With this, we add on stewardship and we add on other supports in the community. And we build an ownership organization, an ownership structure that the residents actually own it. And they get to make decisions for how this thing looks 20 years from now.
Sure.
So,
all right. Just wanted clarity on that.
yeah.
Chairman Davis.
So there's a lot in a neighborhood, for example, that either the CLT wants to buy or the landowner wants to sell to the CLT, however it might work. That would have an effect on the existing homes and property in that neighborhood, I'm assuming, because it's selling for a different price down the road. So what say-so do those neighbors have in that situation, in that transaction?
There are rules against how those homes cannot be, existing homes cannot be devalued from an appraisal standpoint because the CLT is in the neighborhood. They use different methods for appraising and assessing value. We've met with the assessor's office here to talk about that. They understand it, they get it. So you want to do two things. You want to protect the value of the homes of the existing neighborhood and say, well, wait a minute, mine has artificially been decreased as a result of this. They separate those.
They use it as an outlier.
They do. It's a different category that doesn't affect existing home, but also benefits that homeowner in that they're looking at the value based on what they paid in and saying, this is how we assess that for that purpose. And then they're paying for the improvement on top. The land is separately.
Another thing that you would aim to do, so not only is the house, if you've got 3 houses in a row, they're all $400,000 homes. This one is in the land trust, so this person actually paid $185,000 for it. They're all still valued at $400,000. $150,000. There's just an agreement on how much this one will eventually be sold for. But also something that they've been working on in Atlanta with their land trust is working with the tax assessor to help this person tax burden stay at that 185 valuation, because that's what they're able to actually get out of that home. So that also is going to help with long-term wealth generation, because as your home increases, if you buy a home in a traditional down payment assistance program, that home goes up and your tax rate goes up as well.
And the assessors here, they handle it the same way.
Wonderful. So those are kind of relationships that'll have to come over time.
Thank you.
I do have a question. Of course, let's not forget this whole conversation revolves around the reallocation of the $750,000. I think what I heard you say about the $750,000, this allows you to put that towards administrative cost so that you can actually go out and raise money for the physical land.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming people are more likely to give money toward a tangible asset such as land as opposed to contributing to administrative costs.
Absolutely.
So this $750,000 frees up and gives you the ability to fundraise for those hard assets, correct?
Correct. That's.
The next thing, why is it set at 2%? And my question is this, and maybe if somebody could show me this on a chart, I could understand it a little bit better. If I'm paying 5% for a loan and I can only get 2% out of it, am I not losing 3% a year?
So, first of all, how it was set was a board determination with lots of folks in the room to determine the rate. There are several ways to show what that increase can be. We've already got equity in it. That home that we're building or that somebody else is building is worth $300,000. Their loan against the total equity of that home is going to be much, much less than that. So they're getting an increase above that payment, but that is not the full value because it's a $300,000 home.
So what are they getting 2% on? The value of the home, or are they getting 2% on what they
get
appreciation.
of what though?
Their original mortgage.
So the value set at the original price that they bought that home, that they're getting an appreciation, they're getting 100% of the calculated appreciation that has been determined under the ground lease at 2% a year.
Okay. But help me understand, they're gonna pay 5% on that.
Give or take, yeah. On their mortgage rate.
Okay, so if I'm paying 5% on that amount and I'm only getting 2% of increase in value off of that same amount, am I not, like I said, if I could see this on a chart, maybe I could understand it a little better. In my mind, I'm losing 3% a year.
And I would say that we're happy.
And the reason I'm asking that is why would the rate instead of 2% not be
something different
at a fair market, like
I
set on the 30-year or the 10-year bond market?
The goal here is that we want to be able to share a certain amount of appreciation, but also make sure that the next homeowner can also purchase at the 60% AMI level. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I get the affordability long range, but I'm just.
So there are a number of other cost savings that are included with the initial subsidy that's coming from the land trust, including the lack of a need to engage in private mortgage insurance. Is because of the initial investment of the subsidy, it's not going to be something that CLT homeowners have to invest in. So we are making sure that the purchase, including all fees, including the interest rate, the payment is something that homeowners are going to be able to afford month by month. Now, the difference here is the option compared to if they're unable to engage in the housing market, they're still renting over the time period. The costs for rental increases are going to be astronomical. The comparison here is the equity that a homeowner is able to build by using this model and the savings that are going to be built from both their initial investment and the 2% is an option for equity building that currently is unavailable.
Well,
I guess my question is if you base that appreciation rate on like a 10-year or 30-year bond market, does that, you feel like that makes it unaffordable 7 years, 10 years down the road because you've increased the value 2%?
Well, over 2%, yeah, we would have, the worry would be that it would become less affordable over time.
It's the initial purchase price that we're worried about. We understand the rate going into that, but we have to set an initial purchase price and consider what that would be for the next family affordably 7 years down the road, whatever the interest rate they're paying into that. We've got some return, but the only way we can look at it is set a price based, and there's several ways to do it. One way to do it is this fixed. Another way CLTs do it is by setting it against some index.
Yeah.
The third way to do it is percentage of total market appreciation in whatever the market you're in or sub-market. There are different manners of doing it. The one that's proven most effective historically, based on our consultants sharing with us Grounded Solutions that does this everywhere, is a fixed increase per year because there is return over that initial down payment to this homeowner. We do compare it, it is relative to the rental market. If folks are in the market for homes and they can afford it, they have an option. Right now, most of these folks that we're talking in this percentage do not. You've hit on this, do not have an option. So how do we set that price affordably? No PMI. There are other benefits to this from a tax standpoint we've talked about. So there are other things going in that are savings and are a benefit to families. You're right, we could look at other methods of doing this, but our consultants, based on what they've seen elsewhere and what this organization has said is, and its board, is that we're going to go with the fixed increase per year as a method of doing that. But we can generate, if you'd like to see some numbers, some other numbers beyond what we have here on that ROI based on initial down payment, we can generate that. We can share that with you.
That would be helpful.
Well,
Okay.
look, I'm in favor of this. I mean, I look at this as, I'm a general contractor. I have a toolbox full of tools.
Yeah, yeah,
And I've got lots of tools because you need different tools for different jobs.
yeah.
And I see this literally as one more tool. This tool may not be for everybody,
Yeah.
but it will be for somebody. The only thing that I was questioning about, the return was to try to maybe make it a little more fair to the person that's got that property invested,
Yep.
taking out that loan. I mean, it looks like to me if we based it on something a little more on an index that was more, I think, reflective of what a reasonable rate of return would be. I mean, to me, 2% seems a little low, and I understand at the same time, I don't think long-term that would necessarily be a negative on the affordability because typically inflation or anything else is going to run at 3%. So it's not like even getting 5% is going to way outpace, whatever the rest of the return on property is going to be. Councilman Davis? Mr. Chair.
Will all the properties be in the city of Chattanooga?
Ultimately, the geographic region covered by this extends beyond, but right now the planned C&E's lots are all in the city of Chattanooga. And we're looking actively wherever that location may be around the city to be able to do that. That board, and I'll defer if Mike wants to answer that, but the board and others have said we want to provide opportunity maybe in broader Hamilton County to do that. So they've set a geography that extends beyond the city limits. Understanding that you all are concerned and considering how we make our investment, what we can do is ensure the dollars, and you can talk about that if there's some other thing that we need to account for, if there's a willingness to invest as part of that subsidy in to ensure that those dollars are supporting Chattanoogans.
Yeah, and that's my concern
Yeah.
exactly, is that our taxpayers would be
Yep.
funding affordability outside of the city, and that's.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we don't want that.
Absolutely. But we can work to ensure that those dollars you aren't investing what's going to support Chattanoogans.
And I guess a follow-up question on that, if I can, is when you all do expand, will you reach out to those other areas, whether it's the county or the city of Red Bank or wherever for funding as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we think there's tremendous value and investment from anybody that would like a community land trust, so we would absolutely do that. Yep.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chairman. Council, I also like to add that council has a seat on this board, right? I'm just holding the seat down. But long-term, we will have a vested interest in making sure that this is successful and also are able to be stewards of the investment and the monies we put in now. We'll be able to continue that stewardship in years to come. So I do want to just highlight that, it doesn't begin or end here. And I appreciate everybody's thoughts and consideration as we try to figure out how do we make it more affordable. Councilwoman Hill, thank you for pulling this up.
Thank you.
I do have one follow-up, just so I can get an idea of the inventory in a year. So it's my understanding C&E's going to provide 15, or that's the target, right?
We're going to,
But as far as the community land trust, what is your goal for the first year for inventory?
So we have a 5-year set of goals. The first year for the inventory as a whole is 20 units. The second year is 40, and then 50 for year 3, year 4, and year 5. Our total goal for 5 years is 210 units.
Okay.
So those are new units each time, 40 more, 50 more. Awesome.
Yeah. But by year 5, 210 total.
yes.
Right, cool. Okay.
That would be amazing to have 210 permanently affordable homes throughout our city.
If I could, just one question, I guess it's for Vice Chair Elliott.
Yes.
So that, in the bylaws, is there a requirement that city council has a
Yes, sir.
seat? Okay, how long are those terms?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my
Okay.
head. I think some of them are staggered.
Oh, yeah.
But we also need to be mindful as the CLT stands up, some new members will come in.
Oh.
Members who actually own homes in the CLT properties.
Yeah.
But as far as our term, I can't remember. I'll follow up and I'll send it
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to throw out as well, does anybody, what does the home look like? What does it feel like? What does it look like? Kick a tire, if you will. If anybody would be interested in seeing the product, the type of product and touring, individual, please let us know. I know you'll have to be careful as council and how many at any one time, get all of that. But if you would like to come tour the 2 homes that are going to be the first 2 homes into the CLT to see the quality of work going into those homes, what they look like and how we're going to be able to price those at that point, knowing the quality going in, please reach out and love to give you a tour and show you those 2 products.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of that, do you all have some sort of mechanism that you enforce compliance with property upkeep?
Yes, part of the ground lease and part of that stewardship program is to ensure that the lot is being mowed. They have exclusive right to that lot, being the tenant under that ground lease, but they're mowing it. There's opportunity to do improvements to the land. By the way, they do get a credit for improvement. If they make a capital improvement, there's a credit beyond the 2%. What if they do something that improves the house? They get a credit for that. So those are built into the ground lease, and we do enforce the ground lease to ensure to the point that if they look to sell it to another family, there's a mechanism whereby we come in and we being the CLT, which are also residents, come in and say, you need to fix these 3 things for the next family. So we want to make sure that the price is affordable, but also the upkeep, the quality of that home will extend over time. So there are mechanisms in place to ensure that. So we're really preserving that asset by virtue of the ground lease and the mechanisms in place in that ground lease.
What are the consequences if they don't?
There's any number, kind of like an HOA. So you start with some simple, hey, there could be a fine, there could be things related to that, monetary. We may come in to make repairs or improvements and then say there's a charge against that under your ground lease to do that. There are extreme remedies, but we expect, and every homeowner, you live in a neighborhood, you hope all of the homes around you take good care. The CLT also cares because they are residents to say folks are going to take good care. The flip side of that is to be able to say, you need improvement, but you may be struggling right now to be able to pay for that improvement. The CLT can help you with finding folks that may be able to provide improvement at some discount or some rate, or making sure that you're dealing with quality folks doing good repair work in your home. We're also a helper in that regard too. We want to help the homeowner to make sure they can do that.
Well, you kind of got a built-in incentive, right? If your equity is in the home and not the land, you've got a built-in incentive to maintain.
You got to maintain it because your home is on
Right.
it. Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, Councilwoman Hill, do you want to sort of wrap us up and?
Yeah, I appreciate very much Michael, Chris, Janice being here while she could. Thank you for your leadership and service on the board, DC, Elliott. It sounds like between this conversation and the one last week that we don't have 100% consensus, but we do have majority consensus. So I'd like to see this be added to the revised version of the budget, Mr. Chair.
So
Striking the request for the position change, but just the 750.
Let me just kind of get a sense of everybody, I mean, kind of to get a consensus, who's in favor of that. Anybody against, I guess. Okay, so I think there is a majority consensus to add this into the budget for the 750,000 and striking the 125.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your consideration of this, and Chairman Henderson for your time and attention.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, thank you for.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate you. Thank you for all you've done.
All right, I do want to, as I mentioned earlier, we sort of need to make sure we have this baked by June the 1st. Council, this morning we presented the agency funding, and I think some of you were watching it online. Do we have a consensus that we are all good with the agency funding?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I also presented the $1 million for Economic Development Fund for trying to attract quantum. I'm sort of seeing a consensus for that, so we want to put that in the budget as well. Was there anything else that we went over this morning that we sort of need a consensus on to work into the budget?
All roads lead to quantum.
All roads lead to quantum.
I think we just have that one question about going to 6 o'clock with the Head Start.
Or early learning,
Yeah, and what the,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Caritza had numbers, but they weren't for that 6 o'clock hour. So.
Weston,
She was
can you
gonna-
follow
she was
up
working
with
on that.
and see what those numbers look like, and see if we can make it on that. Okay. All right, council, that is everything on my agenda for today. Is there anything else that we need to bring to the floor before we break till 3:30? 3:30. 3:30, okay. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you at 3:30.
Thank you.